You're listening to Everyday Engineering, the City of Madison's engineering podcast where we talk about infrastructure, complex topics explained simply, from the water that flows down your drain to the rain and snow that drains into the lakes, by way the curbs and streets we design. City engineering touches your life in so many ways, explained right now in Everyday Engineering. You see the red lights flashing in your rearview mirror. The sounds of sirens grow louder, and of course you pull over to the side. Chances are you've likely gotten out of the way for a City of Madison fire truck at some point, but now there may be a new vehicle rushing by, the city's and nation's first all-electric municipal fire truck. My name is Hannah Mohelnitzky, City of Madison Engineering Division Public Information Officer, joined today by two people who have a hand in charging up the city's first electric fire truck. So cool. Joining me today is Madison Fire Department Assistant Chief Scott Bavery and City of Madison Engineering Division's Master Electrician Matt Parks. Thank you both for being here.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's a cool topic to talk about, exciting for the city. Chief Bavery, start us off. First of all, congratulations on your first electric truck. But before we get into the new Volterra, can you share a little more on what you do day to day to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Absolutely. Good morning, Hannah, and thanks again for having Matt and I join you today. It's been quite a ride the last few months, and like you mentioned, just for the listeners out there, my name is Scott Bavery, and I'm one of the assistant chiefs with the Madison Fire Department. I oversee support services. So what does that mean? It's really all about the capital budget. So I oversee kind of all the aspects of the capital budget, including the 14 stations and kind of managing them, all our tools and equipment, and obviously why we're here today, all the rigs that we ride and respond in.
The rigs. I like that. The rigs, the trucks, all of the cool toys, but so necessary for our community. And then Matt, of course, engineering helped charge up this big milestone. Can you just share a little bit more of your role in all of this?
I'm a master electrician for engineering, and I take care of the electrical services at our building. And basically, we designed and installed a bigger electrical service to handle the demand of the electric fire truck.
So we need power.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. We need power for that big truck. Chief Bavery, so tell us about the new Volterra. How did this idea come to be? Who is the driving force in all of this? Where did this come from?
Yeah, wow. It's where to start, I guess, on that question. It's been in the works for a couple of years. Chief Davis and Pierce Manufacturing have been working on this idea for a few years, just kind of brainstorming the two of them. It's been quite the partnership with Pierce and Reliant over the years, so we were lucky enough to have that relationship for years. And the concept of an electric fire truck was just something that I think the city really enforces and stands behind. So there's been so many key players. I've actually only been involved with this process for about 3 months, jumping into this new role. Retired Assistant Chief Mike Popovich and Chief Davis were really the ones that worked on it for the first probably like year and a half. Yeah. And then I got kind of dove into it here about 3 months ago. So what a great time to come into a new role.
Right.
The pressure's on. But really, one of the unique things for me is really seeing all the key players. Internally, meaning within the department and obviously within the city, working with engineering and fleet has been a huge assets to this whole program. And then obviously the outside partners with MG&E, obviously Pierce. The list goes on, and the mayor's office and elected officials. I mean, everything's been really kind of cool to see that all come together.
Yeah. Did it someday, like one day, the fire department say, we want an electric fire truck? Or did somebody come to you guys, or how did that all kind of start?
Yeah, well, I don't know if many of the listeners know Chief Davis really well or not, but he is like a truck guy. It's one of his passions is fire vehicles, and he has a lot of them, and a really, really intelligent man. And so I think the interest with him with trying to keep up on technology and his passion and willingness to continue to move forward and working with Pierce, it was just kind of an early idea. And if we're starting to see it, and so I never thought I would ever see a fire truck in my service, in my career that would be electric. I mean, I thought maybe ambulances and some of our, chief's cars and things like that for sure. But man, if we can start seeing it in fire trucks and buses and cement trucks, it's endless where it can go.
Yeah, it's really, really cool to see it all come to be and the idea. And, it probably most likely as we keep moving forward toward more sustainable ways and options, that it will be hopefully a regular thing and not as much of a unicorn or rarity, but it is cool to be on the forefront of it. I guess before we get into more of the specifics of the truck and the charging, what are the main differences between a standard truck and this electric truck? Just for our listeners, I mean, how much different is this?
Yeah, it's groundbreaking. I mean, it really is. And the whole idea is if you looked at the truck, you wouldn't know that it was electric, which is really amazing, right? There's definitely, and we've all seen electric cars and trucks, and now I think you're starting to really see the ones that are starting to kind of blend in. You might not realize, and that was really the goal of Pierce and our department to have some insight. But this truck was specifically made as a kind of a loaner project for us. I mean, there was no cost to us, but they really made it built around Station 8's territory, so which is over on Lean Road on the east side. So the call volume, the response, the typical responses that they go on. It's a busy firehouse, so it was really kind of designed for that. But as far as the once you tilt the cab and look at the engine, that's really where it's different. And obviously what Mac worked on as far as just the ability to put a fire truck like that into service into a station. The other side of that is the charging station, and all that is really where the big changes and the difference is.
Engineering. All right. I like that. And there's always that wonderful part of what we do in engineering as part of this podcast as well, is, you know, we work with everyone. And let's talk about it. So the charging the truck is more than just plugging it in, right, Matt? So what sort of things go into making sure that the charging station works, and kind of talk about our journey as well?
Okay. The battery that you need to charge needs to be charged, timely, very, very quickly. And what that means is I need to work with MG&E and Pierce and basically find out what the electrical requirements were of this charger. And then we designed an electrical service to provide that power. So there was several different options that we looked at as far as how to get that electricity to the truck. And you can't just put a charger in the middle of a fire station because there's vehicle traffic, et cetera.
Sure.
So there was, definitely challenges there trying to get that charger into the station. But, it was something that we worked together on. It really turned out.
And challenges meaning like what?
Well,
do we have enough time? No.
I mean, it's the first one. So you don't just go talk to somebody and say, hey, how did you put an electric fire truck in?
Sure.
Or charger in? So we had to really think about what we were doing and realize that maybe there would be more vehicles that charge off that same charger in some other time. So we had to think big picture and then actually design for a specific charger.
Yeah, and just the size of the charger was phenomenal to me. I guess I didn't realize how big of a charger that is on the outside of the station.
Yeah, it's it's bigger than a refrigerator and like 3,000 pounds. So it's not something you just take off a truck and put down. So
and it's a lot different than other charging stations that you've had a hand in here at the city. I mean, this isn't the first time we've done a charging station, but it's definitely the first one. Probably of this size, this magnitude. Yeah. What other ones have you had a hand in, just to give some perspective?
We've done the Madison Metro. We helped Madison Metro install 3 bus chargers for their buses. We've installed, probably 20 Stage 2, which is a little, for like a Bolt, like a small car, chargers through the city. And they all work the same way. They're all trying to charge a battery. It's just the magnitude. When you charge your fire truck quickly, you've got a very, very large amount of energy you're working with. And
quickly, and I do have questions about this a little bit later, but quickly. So I think that's probably one of the things that's really, really important. When calls come in, you have to make sure that it's charged up. We don't have all day to wait for the truck to be charged up. I mean, how quick can it charge it?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that was one of our concerns. Is we obviously are here to respond to calls, and we don't want to miss anything, obviously, and have we did have backup plans because we actually put this truck into service before the press release, or the press conference before, make sure everything is working well. But to be honest with you, there is a backup engine on it. So if for some reason the battery didn't work, it would kick into a diesel mode, or the driver has an ability to manually switch it over. So we felt really comfortable with the data that we were getting from Pierce, that this truck wouldn't have any issues. It does take about 90 minutes roughly if it's fully depleted, the battery, and to fully charge it back up. But to be honest with you, the way it's running so far, we haven't had to kick into the diesel mode. So it's really doing what it's supposed to do.
Well, yay.
Yeah.
Yay, winning all around. That's great. That also means the charging station's working just fine, Matt.
Yes, it is.
Chief Bavery, so how has it changed what you do, how you lead, how your crews respond? I mean, it's got to, when you're, maybe it doesn't change at all. Maybe it does a little bit. I guess maybe in the training it probably did.
Yeah, for sure. So the actual operations, like the tones go off, like I mentioned, and we respond, and the crews have been doing a tremendous job with the change, and it really hasn't affected them that much as far as when the tones go off. We did a pretty in-depth training. Pierce came down. We also met with Reliant. They came down and put on a really in-depth training for a few days to try to capture as many people as we can, and then we kind of did a train the trainer to get our people continuously to train. The crews took this like it was their own, though. Station 8 really did a great job of like adapting to like, this is now their rig, and we might have this rig for a year or two. So they've stickered it right with their logos, and they really took ownership in this. They've gotten to meet not only the engineering staff, Matt and his team, but also Pierce and even the high ups at Pierce. The president and VP were there, and really. It was a really proud moment for me to see that, and I think as far as the leadership goes, from the command staff, it's always hard to find time sometimes to continue to focus on forward thinking, and for me that's a high priority. Is if we can continue to look at where the fire service can be, or even the Madison Fire Department, where we can be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. Not only do we save time and energy and cost, but it's really trying to provide a better service for our people.
How much power is it? Like the charger?
To give you a number, it's 150,000 watts. So that would do...
Matt's used to me asking this. So what does that mean?
Easily 15 houses or better. And it's a lot of power. When we worked with the engineers at MG&E, they basically changed the transformer that feeds that building to be big enough to do this. So it is a large amount of energy. And 150 kilowatts is a lot, but we don't really ever take that truck down to a really low, like you don't drive your car down to empty.
Sure.
So that's the thing to know. So that charger is capable of it, but I'm not sure, Chief, you can tell what an average, it probably doesn't charge that an hour even after a run, does it?
No, it doesn't at all. In fact, this may lead into some other questions, but they really haven't had to charge it from the 0 point ever. They've made just on calls, but even if they've driven across the city and come back for training and stuff, it just really hasn't had to go through that full charge.
Yeah.
And they're able to run, obviously, if it's only at 60% and they come back and it might be at 55,
Sure. Yeah, I guess that's what I wonder is the reliability, the knowing it's charged. And again, you're not using it all the way down to 0. So of course that 90-minute recharge is a lot less. I guess when it comes to like the future of this, and hopefully we'll see more electric fire trucks in the nation. It's cool that we were one of the first. What are we seeing from the bigger picture of like electric vehicles and even in emergency services, or even just in general, of how we're approaching that moving forward?
Well, I think this is hopefully the catalyst. Like it'll hopefully really send other companies out there to really push innovation. I hope we're getting a lot of responses from other cities throughout the country and even up into Canada that have called to they're very excited about this program and this particular engine. Pierce put the engine through a lot of testing, obviously, before we even got our hands on it. It sounds like they made hot laps around Lake Winnebago all winter long, and we had some really, really cold winter this year, so some cold temperatures that were actually really good for the testing process for being in the Midwest. But again, we haven't really seen any issues with running the batteries down low enough that it was an issue. This truck does, when we put it in a pump gear, it automatically goes into a diesel mode. So when you're pumping, so if we're at a scene for a long period of time, it won't affect the battery if we're pumping. And in fact, Pierce, when we had the vehicle for about a week, Pierce is obviously continuously doing data collection on it. They also wanted to do data collection on the diesel engine. They actually called me on a Friday and was like, Chief, don't have good data on the diesel engine because you all aren't using it, which is great news, right? That's what we really wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So they asked one weekend that we run it specifically in the diesel mode, so our drivers had to specifically, start the engine that way and run it that way, just so they could gather some of the data. And the crews were really excited to go back into the electric mode. They've really, like I said, bought into this.
Is it quiet?
Yeah, it's definitely way quieter than the other engines. There's some other things that still, you still hear some fans, obviously, on the inside, like the air conditioning and stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely more quiet.
Matt, what about generally when we're trying to support this effort, no matter if it be a fire truck or car, or I guess what else can we charge up? I don't know if there's other things.
That charger that we installed couldn't charge the new Ford electric Mustang.
It could or could not?
It can.
Okay.
With the charger and everything. So basically the industry that's putting this together is making these chargers smart enough to basically recognize what that battery is. The battery talks to the charger. So for a while there, it was a specific charger for a specific battery, and that's changed. We're seeing that more and more, uniformity. I think we're going to see more, like garbage trucks, that kind of thing. That's got a regular route is something you can absolutely plan a battery around. So I think that's probably the next big thing we'll see.
And I'd love to see, we have 8 ambulances that run crazy busy in the city of Madison. And we're continuously trying to fight to get more and more of those. And because we run out of them every day, I would love to see us, and we've had talks with our ambulance company to try to prevent or start that process. They're currently working on a prototype, and they're running it in Canada. So we're hoping that we can be one of the first, maybe even to bring ambulances down here to continue that effort too as well.
Anything that we can electrify, we want in.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's right.
It also, and back to what you were saying, Matt, about, that the chargers are recognizing more than just the specialized, vehicle that you're technically building it for. That's a lot better on the bottom dollar too. You're not having to buy all these different types of chargers, installations, all the things for all these different, if it can work with multiple vehicles, that's a win also for the taxpayers as well.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about when you're out at a fire. Does it take more power to use the hose? I don't know. Walk us through some of the power suck of, using at a fire. How much power is it using? I guess talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great question. Because again, so when this vehicle rolls into a fire, and as soon as they put it into pump gear, which means we're actually going to flow water, the electric engine stops and it kicks into a traditional diesel engine mode. So that's challenging Pierce and other companies to, at some point, even continue on this technology. How ideal would it be to even get away from all diesel engines? Maybe there's a simpler solution to get rid of that, and that's what the engineers are probably continuously going to work on for the next few years. This truck, they're going to learn a lot of stuff from this truck, and hopefully 2 years they're going to produce trucks like this, and it'll be even a better version than what we see today.
How long does it last? A truck like this?
Well, so it's a great question. We, it's really Pierce's truck, so there was not a cost really to the city, and actually, obviously, with the partnership of MG&E to pay for the charger, there really wasn't that cost, and we have the ability. Hopefully, we're hoping to continue to collect data for Pierce for at least a year or two with this truck.
Sure. Oh my goodness. Well, I have to read through some of these facts because they're really. You guys provided this with your release, how green this is, how wonderful this truck really is. Idle reduction for up to 1 hour of zero emissions, allows for zero emissions operation, 28% improved acceleration when fully loaded. So not only is it green, but it also is operating just as if a standard truck would, still has all the power. It's all of these different things that make it so green. Zero emission driving during entry and exit of the fire station. So, what does this mean when it comes to being green?
Well, when a standard diesel truck starts up, the second you start it, it starts producing monoxides and other exhausts. And so we've got a special equipment that draws that air out of the firehouse. Well, the electric vehicle, you don't have to worry about that. It just drives out without any emissions at all.
So and if you think about that and chew on that, that's any vehicle at the city. That's a lot of vehicles every time you start up a vehicle, even for a minute or two. And if you eliminate that, how much better that is. That's an impact. It really can quantify, a few minutes into making it better for all.
Yeah, and I just think the going electric mode, I think there's always there's some negative thoughts out there that you're giving up something. And I think with this technology and the way that batteries are going and different technology, we're starting to realize that there's a positive effect of going electric, and then there's not the negative that I think everyone talks about, or a few do talk about, that it can actually enhance your operations on a daily basis, which is really cool.
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible, and we're thriving with it.
And if you think about the diesel engines on diesel trucks idle all the time, and an electric vehicle, you just turn the electric motor on and use it to drive you someplace, and then you shut it off. So there's all that energy saved, less pollution. It's just win-win.
Win-wins. Anything else you'd like to add before we go? Last question. Anything you want to mention that's worth mentioning? Rah, this is great. Congratulations on the new truck. Anything you'd like to add that I didn't ask you?
The one thing that I just wanted to throw out there too is it's unbelievable the amount of to bring in something like this into our community. Just really seems like it really brings a lot of people out. Really bring in groups like internal working, but also the public to see everyone kind of work together. And I'll share a real quick story. As soon as I got into my role, there's an individual that has called me, and I was told that this guy will call maybe once, maybe twice every quarter. He's a truck guy, right? This guy, he works part-time at one of the tow truck companies, and he knows more about our fleet than probably I do, right? Like about these trucks. And we've had some really great conversations. And as soon as about a few days before this got into production, he got wind of it and was like, hey, what's going on with this? And I purposely kind of held him off till our press conference. So I reached out to him. And we had this great talk about this truck. And I was like, man, why are you so excited of this truck? Like, what brought you so excited into the Madison Fire and just fire trucks in general? And he recalls when he was a kid, he grew up on the south. I never met him yet. So we actually have plans now that COVID's down to meet him and take him out. He's been to every station besides 14.
That's awesome.
And he grew up on the south side, or at least at some point in his life was on the south side. And he used to come into Station 6 to play basketball with the crew. Mm-hmm. And at one point, I was stationed there for a couple of years, and so I saw this later on. Him and I are probably around the same age, maybe he's a little bit younger, but he would come in to play basketball, and he would see the trucks, and he was super excited. But one day, that crew brought him in for lunch, him and the other kids that were there to play basketball, and he said, from then on, I was sold. And these trucks that drive by, like he's like, and so I'm starting to see that from other people in the industry. Like, Matt's got a lot of things that you're working on in the city, and maybe I'm a little biased thinking that this is probably one of the cooler ones that you're working on right now.
I would agree.
But you see that enthusiasm from like people you're working with, and to me, just a truck like this can really bring a lot of people together, which is really neat.
I think, yes, spot on, exactly. It's more than just the truck. It's the people that are driving the truck. It's the community that pushes it out, that supports it. It's the city that is behind these initiatives. I love hearing that. I think we often see, we have our big green Vector trucks in engineering, and people are always interested in the big toys, it's because they're so visible. But if they can really be great and green, truly green, I think that also is a wonderful thing to be a part of. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both. What a great way to end the podcast episode. If you have an idea you want us to discuss or dissect or share more information about on this podcast, send us a message on the City of Madison Engineering Facebook page, because as always, we are here for you every day in engineering.